Hello, welcome back to Drunk Storytime with Quefish. I just realized I have not refilled my glass since the last video. So I'm going to do that now. So we are... Oh my goodness. So I am still with the Irish cream out of Mummy's sippy cup. Wouldn't that be funny if I actually had a sippy cup? No. So we are back with Chamyl and their story of Not That Bad When You Get Used to It. We are on chapter 17, titled Read, Write, Set on Fire. This came out after the anniversary video that was released, where Crowley was, oh gosh, I can't even remember. Did Aziraphale call Crowley or did Crowley? I think Aziraphale called Crowley. And Crowley wanted to come over and watch him eat cake, but Aziraphale said no. Like a dumbass. So anyway, this is post that video. So he's not really bored. He's just disappointed, really. He was not expecting to be rebuffed like that. Against the rules. Right. As if human rules applied to them at all. As if they couldn't very well make it so no human sees them walking through the city during this bloody lockdown. Crowley sighs as he sits on his throne, lost in thought. Well, he did the right thing, didn't he? He told Aziraphale he'd go to sleep for months if he can't think of anything to do in the next 2 days. That's a clear deadline, isn't it? And the angel is very free to decide for himself whether he wants to do something about it or not. No pressure, no going too fast, no chasing him anymore. Just an open invitation. Besides, he'll sleep with his phone under the pillow just in case. When he's in this kind of a mood, there's only one thing Crowley likes to do, and that's slithering over to the only corner of his flat that isn't disturbingly bare. The room where he stores all his memories. It's a small, windowless room, just shelves and an old Baroque desk in the middle. For a few hours, he sifts through his souvenirs. Seashells from the time he was on a mission in Lesbos and ran into Aziraphale. An ornate smoking pipe he got in China around the time he and the angel saw fireworks for the first time. A rainbow thong with cute little tassels from... It doesn't matter. He's so desperate to distract himself from the thought that he's been rejected again, that when he finds his old box of filthy romance novels, he decides to dig right into it. Alone in the tiny room, he spends hours upon hours immersing himself in stories where the heroine, bland or spirited, gorgeous or plain, hesitant or assertive, in the end, always gets the object of her desire. And along the way, there are always quite a few spicy scenes. Indeed, one can't help but getting ideas reading those things alone in the dark. Crowley isn't sure how much time has passed when he's done rereading the last book in the box. Could be hours. Could be days. Anyway, the phone in his pocket hasn't rung, so it doesn't matter. He's sitting on the floor, books with indecent covers scattered all around him, when he gets an idea. Up high on a shelf to his right, there should still be, there it is. The beautiful typewriter he got in the 80s. The perfect tool when you don't want to leave a trace. Write, read, set on fire. Easy. No pesky clouds snatching your private pictures and then getting hacked and releasing them all over the internet. Although he was mildly offended to find out that in this century, milky ankles and close-ups of perfectly manicured fingers do not qualify as porn. They do these days, Crowley. He cracks his knuckles and begins to write. Oh no, he's writing his own fan fiction. Okay. He cracks his knuckles and begins to write. We can't, Angel, the redhead said, the back of his head hitting the wall as his friend and partner lodged his thigh firmly between his legs. You'll be punished, exiled, excommunicated. I can't ask you. You're not asking, my darling. You do not even have to speak at all. Suddenly, he had his breath taken away by a deep, passionate kiss. He moaned into it as surprisingly strong hands pinned him to the wall, and there was no hiding the pulsing arousal hardening in his perfectly fitting jeans. Angel, he gasped into the kiss, his hands reaching out to grasp tentatively at his best friend's tan coat. But there was no reply, just more kissing, and then more and then more kissing. And then the redhead realized his clothes started coming off, layer after layer, and warm hands. What the heaven are you doing here? Crowley sputters, frozen in place, the dirty book still on the floor and his thinly veiled self-insert porn stuck in the typewriter. Aziraphale hesitates. He stands in the doorway, his gaze taking in the books and the typewriter before landing squarely on Crowley's very evident erection. He blushes immediately and takes 2 steps back. He thrusts an arm forward, showing him a cake carrier. You said you wanted to watch me. Well, it doesn't matter. I couldn't reach you and I was worried, so I'd rather think I should leave. Maybe it's the fear that if he doesn't act now, he might lose his angel forever that propels him. But Crowley is on his feet and through the door in the blink of an eye, surprising even himself. He grabs Aziraphale by a wrist to stop him. Well, shit. He doesn't even know what to say. He releases the angel, shoving his hands deep into his pockets, his mouth suddenly very dry. What is there to say? Even his boner has been scared off by the prospect of having fucked up so badly. He sighs, giving up. There's just no way to fix this. It's not like he saw what you were writing. Look, I didn't mean... You just startled me is all. You're free to go. He gestures in the vague direction of his front door. Obviously. Aziraphale considers him for a long moment. Oh, but I suppose I could stay a little. I brought lemon drizzle cake. We could have a cup of tea. He begins to walk towards the kitchen, leaving a surprised but relieved demon behind him. And maybe you could tell me all about your creative pursuits as we eat. As you eat, Crowley corrects him, turning around to close the door to the small room and lock it. And believe me, Angel, you don't want to hear anything about those. Aziraphale had disappeared behind a corner, but his voice can be heard. Aziraphale has disappeared behind a corner, but his voice can be heard loud and clear. Perhaps I do. Crowley blinks twice before scrambling towards the kitchen. Oh my God, it's so funny. That was amazing. Crowley writing his own fan fiction. That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to go on to chapter 18 of Chamyl's Not That Bad. When you get used to it, hit the ceiling. The prompt for this was sex fails or accidents. Excuse me. Fine, yes, he will admit it. Crowley had a good idea. At first, Aziraphale had been quite skeptical about this whole disregarding gravity and making use of the walls and ceiling ordeal. But he's changed his mind now. The heavy petting against a wall, their feet not touching the floor, had been quite fascinating. Not very different from doing the very same thing on a bed, admittedly. But he didn't get Crowley's hair in his face every other minute, and that's quite a perk. Being sandwiched between the ceiling and his lover, however, that's a whole other ordeal. Whole other deal, sorry. Not an ordeal. I wouldn't find that an ordeal. The cool surface feels pleasant against his back, and Crowley's body burns hot against his skin. The demon's angular shoulder blades press into his chest in a way that should feel uncomfortable, but isn't. Not at all. Aziraphale grips Crowley at the hips where his sharp bones jut out to make just the perfect handle. Maybe he's handling him in a way that's quite impolite, and more than a little proprietary even, but that's what Crowley does to him, making him forget all propriety. Crowley, on his part, does not seem to mind at all, quite happy to be manhandled. He crosses his ankles and, with the quiet tingle of a miracle, makes his inner thighs slicker, silkier, so that Aziraphale's cock slips right between them. For all that Crowley loves to praise the angel's thighs, his own are quite a wonder to Aziraphale. Indeed, they've only been at it for a few minutes when an orgasm takes the angel by surprise, and he smothers a loud moan into Crowley's shoulder as the white, hot pleasure radiates from his core, up his spine, all the way out to his fingers and toes, as it reaches his brain and shuts off all his higher functions for a few long moments. He's not aware of anything at all but Crowley's warmth, the smell of his skin, the way he hisses in pleasure, until the demon himself gently tugs at his hand. Angel? Crowley calls, and there's something in his tone that tells Aziraphale something is off. Yes, my darling? He asks as he finds a lovely spot between the demon's shoulders to press a kiss to. There's been a little accident. We forgot something. Sort of. That is... Crowley turns back a little to be able to look at him. Did we consider what we left underneath us? Aziraphale gasps. If he could, he'd bring a hand to his mouth for emphasis. My clothes! Oh dear. I made rather a mess on them, didn't I? Yep, Crowley confirms, popping the pea as he pats his arm reassuringly. Let me clean it up for you, if you'd like. Please, Aziraphale replies, and he can't help smiling as he closes his eye and rests his cheek against the demon's back. And thank you. like just coming. Whatever's left on the floor is gonna get stained. Oops. Oh my god, it's so funny. So that was chapters 17 and 18 of Chamyl's Not That Bad When You Get Used to It. And we're at 15 minutes, so I'm gonna stop and do the next video. So thanks for joining me. Bye.